Hey improvisers, Suzi here with a tiny PSA before we get started. It's the season of gift giving, and we have gift subscriptions available at yesalso.supercast.com. For just $8, you can gift a beloved improviser in your life a full month of full-blown access to all of the bonus content we've ever created, or if you really want to impress them, just $80 will get them a year-long subscription. Either way, it's a nice, thoughtful gift for the improvisers in your life, and you know what? Come to think of it, this is not a PSA. This is a straight-up commercial. So, say no to drugs, and definitely don't litter, and smoking kills. There we go. Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett. My guest today is one of the old school greats, Sean Conroy. Sean plays in ASCAT at UCB-LA, and he has a successful writing career with credits like Key and Peele, and for a long time he taught a pilot writing class at UCB. As an improviser, he started out in New York. He was a cast member at Chicago City Limits, and he was a member of the legendary UCB New York team, The Swarm. This is one of those great historical archival episodes. Sean has stories from times and chapters that I hadn't heard much about before. And in part 2, he reveals the surprising origin story of the Swarm, which I had never heard. I did not realize that it was a team formed by Amy Poehler with a very specific angle and vision that ended up completely morphing into something else. He also gives a pretty thorough how-to for those of you interested in doing the tracers form. All of that is in part 2, which you can access by going to yesalso.supercast.com and becoming a subscriber. For more Sean, make sure you check out his new podcast, Punching Up. It's all about comedy writing and script writing. But for now, let's go to this episode of this podcast. Sean, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
It's good to see you. We were just chatting on your way in that I see you kind of like every 3 months.
Yeah, we get to do a show together.
Yeah, always a delight to play with you.
Oh, same to you.
I feel like you're one of the pillars that holds ASCAT together when it's going off the rails.
I appreciate that. And I mean, I just love doing that show so much. So,
what do you love about it?
It's a couple things. One thing is I just love improvising. Like I've done so many different styles of comedy, sketch and stand-up and improv, and I guess really only 3 styles.
But if you would,
but different sketch teams have different styles.
You could have just trailed off that sentence with an inflection.
I did a one-person show. That counts too.
I've played mayors. I've played doctors.
I did play a mayor. But improv is the purest to me in terms of the comfort level you can get to. And I feel like for me, it is the closest thing I have to prayer or meditation where I don't think about anything except what's happening right in that moment.
It is comedy meditation. It's comedy flow state.
Right.
You're listening and reacting in the moment. You're not allowed to plan. And even if you do, it goes awry and is actually bad. And it quickly kind of self-corrects you back into a place of having to be in flow state.
And I think you can tell when that's happening. You can see when people are like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. And then instead of being like moment to moment, you know?
Yeah. I very much feel that it like a spirituality to the practice of it. And even the communion between audience and performer and the communion of performers with each other. And something like ASCAT is so cool for me because it's like cross-generational. Like you were a teacher when I was coming up. And there's this meeting of minds from kind of all different arenas, people who came up in different cities, different times. And we all come together, you know, and a lot of us aren't like friends outside of that, but we like meet up and do this cool thing together.
And it's also just stylistically in terms of improv, it's very specific in terms of whatever is the most interesting thing in the room at the moment is the thing that everybody's supposed to focus on, which doesn't always happen, but it's not like you're doing a Harold where you're like, okay, what's the second beat going to be?
Right.
Yeah,
we have to thread this group needle together.
ASCAT is just like whatever happens, and you want to keep everything in mind.
Yeah.
But it's also goes wherever,
when you just said like you're focusing on whatever the most interesting thing in the room is, there's a cool aspect to that where you have to at all times be defining for yourself what you find to be interesting about this. Like you are noticing and discovering things that your particular comedic genius finds funny.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Only you. That is not a royal you. That is you, Sean Conroy.
Right. No, I get it. I'm a genius. It's everybody's individual sense of, I guess sense of humor, but sense of comedy, sense of what's funny, and them going, this is the thing I want to focus on. And it's that thing that you were just saying of communion with other people that you might think, oh, this is the thing we need to focus on. But as soon as somebody else focuses on something else, it's your responsibility to go, oh, that's the thing.
That's the thing. Now, how do I decorate that tree instead of this old Charlie Brown spindly stick? Or how do I make your spindly stick look good
really
and
nice
not judge it?
Yeah.
Even though I chopped down this spruce, I'm going to decorate your stick.
Every time I see you, you're like, what's going on with your tree?
Yeah. A minute ago when you said it's the purest because of the comfort level, what do you mean by that? What?
I guess, you're not, it's the same thing. You're not planning anything. You're not thinking about anything. And if you've done it for a while and you have the skills, you can be comfortable doing that. Whereas if you're doing any of a large variety of other types of comedy, like stand-up or sketch, I guess only those two, it's something you have to plan out and go like, what am I going to do when I get up there in front of these people? And I think that there are higher stakes to something like that.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't stakes in front of a live audience. There always are, but you're being, I don't want to use the word arrogant, but I will. You're being arrogant going, I'm going to get up there and tell these people what's funny. And it's, time travel or whatever the sketch is or whatever the jokes are, the mayor of time travel. Yeah. Whereas with improv, you're like I said, you're just in the moment, and it's and the audience will give you, I think, the benefit of the doubt without even realizing it. They're like, oh, these people are just coming up with this. So
right. Yeah, there's less expectation, and you get a real gimme. You get a real forgiveness factor.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, but that's part of the joy of it too. Is doubling down on the weird, silly things that you wouldn't sit in your apartment and refine into a perfectly formed sketch over the course of a week. Right,
and if somebody goes to see a sketch show or a stand-up show, they can go, this time travel sketch was hilarious the way they did this, and this. Whereas we all know when you try to describe an improv show to anybody, it's just
garbage,
gibberish.
Right. Yeah. What do you mean duck baseball?
Which doesn't take away from the fact that when you're in the room with the audience, with the people on stage, it's absolutely delightful.
Yeah, it's magic.
Because everybody is in the same space, the same headspace at the same time, but it's not something that communicates or that you can tell other people about.
Right, which is one of maybe historically the problems of why it took improv a while to kind of catch on and go viral in a way, right? It was kind of an insular, you had to be there, and it was certain people on certain college campuses who were like getting the it of it, and people in other places were like, what are you talking about?
It is wild to me how every college at this point has 5 improv groups.
Isn't that wild?
And like, I never heard of it when I was a kid.
Right. Let us, speaking of time travel, let us go back there. Did you always want to be a comedian? And if not, what was your trajectory?
I think that my trajectory, no, I didn't always want to be a comedian. I did all the I did all the musicals and the funny shows when I was in high school and college.
And that's what your high school and college called them? The spring funny show?
Well, in high school, it was, just we did a musical and a straight play.
Sure.
I guess the straight plays weren't always funny. Like, I can't even remember a good example.
Right. The comedy was like Arsenic and Old Lace on on a loop.
Which we never did. No, it was that show about, it was like a courtroom drama.
12 Angry Men.
No, it wasn't that.
Okay.
It was English. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but
it matters to me.
I'll think of it at some point.
Okay.
And then we did a musical, and I love doing the musicals because you could be silly and funny. And then by the time I was a senior, I started being in the musicals at a couple of local girls' schools as well.
Okay.
Which was because I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, so it was fun to like the director, this woman who directed the show at one of the girls' schools was like, you have to be in all these other shows too. And so I started going, like she would drive me literally from school to school to do.
Was this because you were the best actor of the bunch and she was like, I'm drafting
I don't think actor, I think funny, like I think she could just tell that I was funny. And that was, I think that was the first person in a position like that who really got it, you know what I mean? Who got what I knew was there all the time.
Oh no. Oh no.
But so I went to college and I didn't know what I was doing or what I wanted to do. But again, I did all the musicals, and at college there were two different theater groups, and one was the very serious, Sam Shepard plays.
Yep.
And the other was Don't Drink the Water, And so I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an actor.
Because it solves that. It solves the problem of like, how do I enjoy my life? You just overlaid it onto like, well, I already enjoy doing this, and I spend so much time doing it, and I seem to be good at it.
Right.
All these adults are picking me out and driving me around. All these one adult. Okay, so your sights get set on actor.
Yeah, and that's a pretty simple road. So here I am. No, I moved to New York City and I was like, oh, I'm going to be an actor. But I also came from a family where it was like, no.
We are button makers.
You gotta have, right. You gotta have a job. You gotta have a real, you can't just be an artist. Like you gotta, which I understand, like it was just outside anything that these people, my parents had ever thought of or experienced in any way.
And in a very practical sense, they're right. Going to auditions does not pay the rent. Right. So in the meantime,
they're still right, to this day, as they occasionally let me know. But and so then, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a funny actor. I'm going to be, and I back then there was a thing called Backstage, which was like a newsprint paper that you could read and see like, oh, auditions for this, auditions. And there was an audition that said, do you think you can be funny on the spot? And I was like, I think I can do that. And I called them and they were like, come on Saturday and bring your picture and your resume. And I did. Brought a 3x5 of myself in front of a mountain in Switzerland and a resume of all the jobs I'd had while I was in college. I was like,
written on the back of that.
I was a bank teller. I was a mechanic. I was, and they were like, what is that? Like, that shows you how prepared I was to be an actor, that I just did not have any concept of what that was. But I auditioned for that group, and they were an improv group. It was the first time I had ever experienced that, and they asked me to work with them.
Was this Chicago City Limits?
No. This was a group called Falling Rock Zone.
This is the first this pod has heard those words.
Well, because Falling Rock Zone was a subdivision, not a subdivision, but they were part of like a local conservatory theater group in like Yonkers and places like that. And so it was people who were what my parents wanted, which was people who had real jobs, a pharmacist and an accountant and whatever. And this is what they did for fun. So it was not ever, it was very fun, but it was also never going to go anywhere, which I did not understand.
So it was like a community theater of improv, basically. But improv is all this company did, or was it like repertory with plays and stuff?
Oh, the company did plays and stuff, but we were the improv group.
Gotcha.
And some of the people in the improv group were part of the repertory company and did shows there.
Gotcha.
But we were just the improv group, which meant that, we rehearsed once a month, and we did shows about every 2 months, which I don't know if you've read Malcolm Gladwell at all, but 10,000 hours is what it takes to get good. It's going to take, centuries.
10 lifetimes, yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't know, I didn't know you could do more than that. I was like, oh, this is great. I love it. And meanwhile, I had gotten a real job. I became a junior high school teacher. So,
okay.
I was actually having, I had a salary and stuff.
And while you were doing the Falling Rock Zone shows,
by the way, there is a Falling Rock Zone theme song, which I am not going to do for you, but one of the guys in the group wrote a theme song that would play when we would come out to perform.
You're killing me that you won't even give me like a bar.
Let's just say one of the rhymes for Zone was like Falling Rock Zone. I'm not even going to remember it, but anyway, one of the rhymes was, I hope you brought your dones, which is like a back relief pill. Like you were going to laugh so hard you would hurt your back.
Gotcha.
So
of all the easy rhymes, we got bone, cone,
dones,
moan, brought your dones.
Falling Rock, I hope you brought your dones.
You'll be squinting your eyes like Sylvester Stallone.
Right. I eventually was like, this is not enough for me. I want more than this. And I decided that I was going to start my own improv group. I didn't realize that there were lots of others around, like I could have just gone somewhere and taken a class or whatever, but I was like, I'm going to rent a theater and start my own improv group.
In your defense, this is probably like cusp of the internet, right?
Oh, long before.
This is pre-internet.
Yeah.
So
this is like 19, I think I started it in 1992.
Okay.
My first show with Falling Rock Zone was June 12th, 1989.
Good Lord.
At Grandpa Al's Shooting Stars on Central Avenue in Yonkers, New York. And if you remember, Grandpa Al was on, what was he on, The Munsters, maybe? Or
sounds about right.
He was the elderly vampire, which, by the way, when you look at him, you don't realize that in the show, he's supposed to be old and he's like 45,
I've been doing that lately. Like all the Golden Girls are like 50. Right. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm almost that? Okay, so you rent a theater. You're like, I'm going to start my own improv thing.
So I put an ad in backstage, the same thing that I had responded to. And I just wandered around New York City going like, where is there a good theater that I can, and I just looked at a bunch of places.
Just started knocking on doors on Broadway. When Cats closes,
right.
What's the rent in this place?
But I mean, it's 1992 and New York is still so expensive.
Yeah.
So I eventually found a place. It was called the Duality Playhouse. It was on 28th Street. And they rented it to me at 11 o'clock on Friday nights after their other shows ended for $250 a week.
Amazing.
Which in nowadays, that's like $8,000 or something.
Right. That's unbelievable.
Right.
They're like, yeah, we'll make an extra cool $8K right. on this knucklehead who's going to do a midnight show.
So, and like I said, I was working. So I was like, oh, I can lay out the money. And then if we get X number of people in, we'll, at 11 o'clock on a Friday night, yikes. Good luck. And, to their credit, despite their misgivings about any career path here, my parents would come at 11 o'clock on Friday night every week to sell to sell milk and cookies to sort of help me recoup the losses.
Oh God.
And my little brother would take tickets at the door. He was just he was like 13 or 14
the
at
way
the time.
you talk about this sounds like scenes from, I read Harpo Marx's biography a couple years ago, and it sounds like that. It's like the whole family would like put all our belongings in a trunk and haul it down the railroad tracks to do a show for passing hobos.
That was the right thing as far as they were concerned, even though they were concerned,
Yeah. It's really sweet.
It's very, very kind.
Down to the detail of that it's milk and cookies. It's not like candy they bought at the store. It's like homemade and
on
so
a napkin.
Wholesome.
On a paper napkin.
Right. Milk out of an unlabeled bottle. Nobody's really sure. Okay, so where'd you find the people to be in this group?
So I put an ad in backstage, and I still remember I got like 150 headshots and resumes from people.
A lot of 3x5 snapshots of people on their vacations.
Every single one of them was smarter than I was.
So how did it go? Did you recoup money? Were people getting
I'm sure
seats?
I lost money, but I don't think that much. But what did happen, and this is where Chicago City Limits comes into it. So right at the time we were doing that show, Chicago City Limits, which was an off-Broadway short-form improv and song parody show, was having auditions. And we all went and auditioned for their national touring company. Mm-hmm. And my friend Amy Wilson, I can say her name because she's, like I said, I'm still in touch with her. And she was fantastic and obviously still is. But we all auditioned. They loved her because she's, smart and gorgeous and funny and all the things you need to be in a show, and
Thank you for calling me gorgeous.
Incredibly talented. And they were like, we want to see you do a show. Can we come and see you? I did not have a good audition. They were not interested in me. But they were like, can we come and see you do a show? And she was like, sure, I'm doing this show at 11 o'clock on Friday nights. So a bunch of the people from the company came to the show on Friday night, and that was my home court. So,
So you crushed it there, and then from
and they were
that,
like, we want both of you.
Yeah, great.
And so that was how I got into the touring company of Chicago City Limits.
How lucky.
Yeah.
And what a great lesson in start your own thing, find your place, find your people,
Don't wait for people to give you the opportunity. Do your own thing. I think that unfortunately that's a lesson I'm still learning, but that is definitely a great example of that, where if you do your own thing, it leads to better things.
What were other takeaways? How long did your
It was only a couple months.
Okay.
And there was one person, I think I asked about 10 people to do the show, and one of them was a huge mistake. And it's hard to fire people,
Sure is,
it's hard to get rid of people. So that was something that I learned from that too, is sometimes you just have to buckle down and be the asshole who goes, this is not working.
Yeah. Did you end up doing that, or the lesson?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah.
And it was not easy having that conversation,
But a great, the takeaway remains because things improved after that.
100%.
You were like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
For everybody. Whenever there's a situation like that, it's not like anybody else is like, it's fine. Who cares? It's always like, yeah, this is crazy. We got to do something about this. Just who's going to be the one to do it?
Yeah. Can I ask, without getting too personal,
why am I such an asshole?
Yeah. I've been dying to get you on this podcast so that I can finally ask. Was it the quality of scenes that this person was doing, or was it offstage attitude?
It was both.
Yeah.
It was both. They were a difficult person to work with, and they were making crazy choices on stage all the time.
Gotcha.
Which I think, for whatever reason, in the audition, just everything went the right way. But then once you started working with this person on a regular basis, you were like, what is going on here? And they went on to start their own thing in New York with a whole pyramid scheme to get people to do. It was one of those things where it was like, you can perform with our improv group as long as you sell 10 tickets for the show. So
yeah. People having like the equivalent of Tupperware parties to sell like improv show memberships.
Yeah. And I feel like I ran into this person on the subway while I was with my friend who played the guitar from Falling Rock Zone, who also was in that group was called Out There, by the way.
Okay.
Which led to somebody in the East Village when we were looking at spaces being like, Out There, that's so cool that there's finally a gay improv group. And I was like, oh, that's not my intention. Not that there's anything,
there's nothing wrong with it, but that's not my story to tell.
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, we ran into this person on the subway and they were like, it worked out so well because improv is such a great way to make money.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's like, what?
Also,
but they figured out a scam.
Life is a Herald, and what a great third beat connection there. Later, we were all in the same. Yeah. Right. As a sidebar, just because we've had, so now you've told a story about like you having a bad audition, but someone coming to see a good show and redeeming you or you redeemed yourself. And then a story about someone having a good audition or it went their way, but then they ended up being not the right fit.
Right.
As a side tangent, do you think there is merit to, instead of like auditions, like, just you go and you have your 2 scenes or whatever at this audition, is there merit to like a body of work system over that? Or
I think there is. I think that's a really hard ask for people in charge, Like, what am I going to go do? Watch 2 hours of you performing? Like,
it's not scalable.
Yeah, I can't do that for everybody who wants to do my stupid. I mean, we literally rehearsed in my classroom at the junior high school I was teaching at, by the way. But, I just, even I'm glad that I have sort of, for the most part, moved on from the improv scene as far as teaching and stuff at UCB, because now it's like, oh, go see Harold so you can. And I'm like, I have seen so much improv for 35 years.
Right.
I don't need to watch anybody do anything anymore.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's the context I was trying to apply this to, was like a UCB, or like, now UCB is way too big for that to be implemented. Right. But, communities that are a little bit smaller where like teachers can kind of keep an eye on the track of students.
I think that's definitely a better way to judge somebody is when they're actually, because auditions are auditions. They're not the real thing.
Right.
And it's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Like, what's going on that makes it different? Well, if somebody's sitting there judging you for something that you really want, that's going to affect the way that you're thinking about performing on stage. And some people are great at that. Some people don't care,
Yeah.
But some people, and I am definitely one of them, don't respond well to that kind of pressure.
Yeah, and literal stakes, where it's like in many cases, oh, this is the moment that determines whether I'm allowed to perform on this stage for a year. Yeah. Totally. Okay, so you get drafted into Chicago City Limits. Out There is now over there. Yeah, over and done. Yeah. How was Chicago City Limits for you?
It was great. It was great. I really loved it. That was where I met my erstwhile comedy partner, Eddie Pepitone, who has gone on to be very successful as a stand-up. But he and I toured together for 4 years at Chicago City Limits. We were frequently roommates on the road, so we had a lot of fun together. I don't know that we were fun to be around for other people, but
You guys doing your Three Stooges routine in the van.
Exactly.
Just share some memories from that time. Any road stories, either disaster shows or funny, weird hotels, or
I'll tell you a couple things, and they're both Eddie stories. One is that at one point we went on a 2-week tour, but there was like a week in the middle where we weren't doing anything. Like we had shows at the beginning and shows at the end. And first of all, that was the only time I ever have been robbed, was in Eugene, Oregon. We got our per diem in cash for the entire 2 weeks. So I think I went and bought shoes I didn't have shoes with me for the show. So I went and bought shoes. I spent half my per diem on a pair of new shoes. And that night we did a show and I had the $200 in my pocket in the dressing room, and we came down afterwards and it was gone. So Eugene, Oregon, be careful if you go there. It's dangerous. I mean, Oregon at this point is a nightmare. It's burning to the ground.
If we could only deploy some National Guardsmen to the dressing rooms of community theaters, we'd all be a lot safer.
But Eddie and I, so we stayed in a hotel or a motel or whatever. I'm sure it was a motel, not a hotel, up in Washington State for like a week with nothing to do. And we had a room that was a little bit bigger than a normal room, and I think it had a stove in it or whatever. Like it was L-shaped, so you could be in different parts of the L. So Eddie and I went to a local department store and bought walkie-talkies. And we spent the week in opposite parts of the room talking back and forth on the walkie-talkies.
It's so dumb.
It was pretty great. And
just literally like 20 feet apart.
Yeah. And you could hear each other
sure
above the walkie-talkie.
Yeah, there's no way a room is big enough that you can't. Yeah.
Oh, and then the one other time was when we went to North Carolina. It was the first time I had ever encountered Krispy Kreme donuts.
Okay.
And we were just sitting around a hotel room, and we came up with a bit where Eddie would go, pull, and I would throw a donut, and he would shove the entire donut into his mouth, which was hilarious until about 2 o'clock that morning when he, having eaten about 13 donuts, was just groaning and moaning because his stomach hurt so badly.
Right. You're hearing the kidney stones form in real time. Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun. It was fun.
Of course. It's so fun to tour, especially when you're young. Mm-hmm. And it's so fun to do short form for audiences that haven't seen improv before.
Right.
It's just fun to do short form anyway.
Right.
But that was a real sweet spot where I'm guessing most of your audiences had not seen this before, right?
No. I mean, we did a lot of colleges, a lot of local theaters where they had never seen it before. And then we did a lot of JCCs, Jewish Community Centers, which they always really supported the improv scene, even in New York. And so I suspect those places we went were places that had that kind of thing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And also with short form, the other thing that we were able to do is perform in front of huge audiences, which is much more difficult with long form stuff, I think.
Short form is like larger characters,
it's
bigger
flashier
and
simpler,
scenes. Yeah. Right.
And long form is often, not always, but often just more subtle, more mannered, more, I don't know, intellectual maybe, as opposed to like boom, boom, boom.
Do you have favorite short form games?
There was a game that we called Ding.
Sure, Ding.
Which is
similar
like
to
new choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also fill in the blanks.
I don't know that one.
It's just you say, I think I'm going to go to and the audience yells out something and you have to justify it.
We called that hesitation at Boom. Yeah.
And then the other one that I always loved was we used to do Jeopardy as a short form game.
Eugene talked about that on this podcast. What a brilliant idea.
It was really fun because it's just a joke writing exercise, you know? and it's a lot of wordplay and puns and whatever. And obviously some people hate that stuff, but I always really enjoyed it. So.
And okay, so this speaks to, we have several things I still want to hit here, but you are a writer. You're a successful writer and have written for lots of TV.
A genius. Some people call me a genius.
Some people would call you a comedic genius. Yeah. Do you feel like that was always there, and that was like one of your skills? It's kind of an innate talent. Is it something that got fostered and honed through things like short form, where you are exercising that muscle constantly, or a combo?
I think it's both. Yeah, I think it was always something that I was interested in and good at. But then I did short form, and then I did long form, and I did stand up. All of the three
types of comedy.
Yeah. And I think all of those are interlocking in terms of how to make them all work together. You know, I was thinking about this the other day because we were talking about young storytellers working with kids, and it was really interesting to me because I've run the writer's room on a couple of shows, and I felt like I was almost running the writer's room with these kids. There was just a couple of them, but they were like, you know, just giving lots and lots of ideas. And I kept on having to say, okay, like, so let's just take a second and figure out what we're doing here. So this is true, and this is true, and this is true. And what I realized from that, and I had never really thought about it before, is I feel like being in the writer's room a lot of times is almost like long form improv, where people are just throwing stuff out there and you're like, what's the most interesting thing about that? Is there a way to heighten that, make it funnier, make it work? It's obviously way more than that, but that's one of the really fun things about it to me.
Yeah, and in certain scenes, like say a group game where you're playing kind of the head of the meeting or whatever, it quite literally takes the shape of a writer's room, where you're like, you know, it's
everybody get in here.
Yeah, and maybe it's the inverse. Maybe you are the unusual character as the leader or whatever. But yeah, I love that. I love this circles back to what I started with, which is like in ASCAT, I often feel like you are making moves and calling shots that get things angled towards sanity or logic, or at least nailing down what reality we're in, what the rules of the universe are.
I think that's really important, at least to me, is, and I know, again, I always feel like everybody, you know, like we talked about before, everybody has their own version of what's funny. I feel like for me, it's really important for things to be grounded somehow. It can be as crazy and outrageous and silly as you want it to. I love that stuff, but there has to be some underlying thing that makes it make sense for the audience and for the other players on stage. And I feel like sometimes things go off the rails a little bit. So I think that's probably what you're talking about, where in those moments I'm like, wait, hold on, what's going on?
Right. And what it does also is like it defines it for the other players on stage, right, for you and for the other players.
Right. So people like, know where to go next.
Right. So that even moments where it's like, so let me get this straight. You're upset because the will was just handled incorrectly?
I don't understand why that would be a problem, but perhaps the rest of these people can explain that.
Right, yeah. I'm from out of town, and just to restate my position, right. Yeah, I love clarifying moments like that, and I'm constantly telling students, your characters can have the same experience as you. If you're confused, your character can be confused and need to like pump the brakes and say, let's all just say what we want right now, or, you know.
I think that's a really important thing, and I think that's a really confusing thing for people when they're learning to do long form because of what the reference of the name of this podcast is, which is the yes and rule. I have to agree with everything and go along with everything. And it's like, no, that's not what yes and means.
Yeah.
But it's very hard for people to understand that that's not what yes and means, because it sounds like it just means agree to everything and throw some more stuff in there.
And if that was the case, all of our scenes would be 20 seconds long and just absolutely bananas.
Nonsensical, yeah.
and not funny in the
Right.
process. Like, life is not full of people just automatically agreeing. And
I mean, I think mine would always be funny. Anyway.
I did not mean to insult your comedic genius, sir, Mr. Mayor of Comedy, sir. Yes, and the reality that's being created,
Right.
but tension is fine. Differing opinions is great for comedy.
And and your own feelings about what's going on. Like, and like you're saying, define things. What is happening right now? It doesn't mean that you're going, this is not happening right now. It's that you're going, hold on.
Right.
What are we doing?
Yeah. And because this is happening right now, let's go deeper into
Here's
what is
other
happening
things that
about
can
it.
happen. If this is true, then what else is true? That other classic improv
classic
rule.
Yeah. While we're here, what is your interpretation of the nebulous phrase, play to the top of your intelligence?
I think that's a good one that gets screwed up too.
Yeah.
It does not mean you have to be smart all the time. It means that whoever your character is thinks that they are as smart as they can possibly be. So you have to play that character as smart as they think they are, even if they're not that smart. They're not doing things that are dumb on purpose to be dumb.
Characters are doing their best in any given moment, given the circumstances, the same way that human beings in real life are always trying their best, or we are playing the heroes of our own stories. We're never being a villain on purpose, or like bumbling around our job on purpose.
Although I will say, on my way, not on my way here, but I was driving earlier today, and I passed a car whose license plate was "I'm the Joker," and it was green and purple, and it had "ha ha ha" written all over the sides of it. So some people, I think, are trying to be a villain.
Yes. But ironically, that car is owned by Batman.
He's just trying to make people think that he's more important than he actually is.
That's right. Or maybe it's his Halloween costume. It is October. So Batman is, long form. What was your first whiff of long form? When did you first see it? When did you fall in love with it?
I mean, that's actually an easy one because, well, I was doing Chicago City Limits. This was in, I think, maybe 1996. And we used to sort of read Time Out New York every week and see what was going on in comedy around the city. And there was a group that was mentioned in Time Out New York. They were like, oh, you got to go see their sketch show. It's great, whatever. And they were called the Upright Citizens Brigade. So I went to see their sketch show. They were performing at a place called the KGB Red Room on 4th and 2nd Avenue and 4th Street. And went up to the 4th floor and, went into this show. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. They did a lot. I mean, this is so long ago. They did a lot of stuff with like overhead projectors, and they had a boombox that was going to play music for them, which did not work that night. Matt Walsh was not there, so Bill Cott was sitting in for him.
Funny.
And I enjoyed it. And they were like, oh, we also do, at the end of the show, they were like, we do improv every Sunday night. Come see our improv show at Rebar, which was on 16th and 8th. So that Sunday I was like, let me go see this show. So I went to 16th and 8th, and there was a sign on the door that said, we have moved. We're not doing it here anymore. So I had to go over to 17th between 5th and 6th, the famous Solo Arts Theater.
Okay.
And I went up and I watched Ass Cat, and it was a life-changing moment. It was an epiphany. It was like I literally was like, oh my God, you can do that? That's what I want to do.
What was the that of it? What were you?
I think what I was responding to, because I don't really remember specifics of the show. I think what I was responding to was the audience is not shaping the show for the performers the way they do in short form. The performers are shaping the show for the audience. So whatever people have inside of them can come out and be useful and be interesting and connect with the audience in some way. So it's all about, I mean, this is maybe an exaggeration, but it's like those people just put their brains on stage, you know, like here I am. This is like, my thing is always, if you watch somebody do long form like 4 or 5 times, you kind of know that person.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of like parasocial relationship that happens because you really like, and it's intimate. Like, you know, their intellect, their reference bases, how they think, what they find funny, how they are in relationships, maybe by what they play or what they exaggerate. Yeah. It's fascinating. And no wonder people get crushes on the people that they're watching while they're coming up. It's like, so all right, everybody, put your brains on stage.
Well, and I that has carried over for me even into my, like, I'm trying to think of a good example, but the TV shows I like the most are the ones where you go, oh, that's like Curb Your Enthusiasm is a good example, where it's like, that's just Larry David's brain fully exposed on camera. Yeah. You know, there's a show I love called Patriot on Amazon. And it's got so much weird, crazy stuff in it that you're like, oh, this guy has all these weird obsessions and he found a way to make them all work together in an interesting way.
I love that. Yeah. And I love when something gets through the system and gets made. That is that. Yeah. It's something that's so personal. Yeah. I mean, it's a miracle even that anything gets made, knowing what happens during the process.
Friends was a miracle.
Right. But honestly, it was, though. It's like, but you know, even the most basic stuff, it's like every step of the way has so many cooks and so many non-creative cooks.
Right.
And
that's the issue. Because, you know, collaborating is great, except when you have to do it with people that are not collaborators.
Right. Or when you have to, answer to people that are moving money chips around and don't know what's funny. And boy, did I just stick it to Hollywood. So
take that, ABC.
Take that. So you're immediately taken by
I just
ASCAT.
Loved it. I was like, oh, I want to do that. And, you know, at the end of that show, they were like, we're teaching classes if anybody's interested. And I was like, yes.
Over at 49th and 5th.
I know.
By this point,
I have a weird memory for places and dates, and I can't help it. Like June 12th, 1989, my first show at Grandpa Al's Shooting Stars on Central Avenue in Yonkers. You know?
I love it.
February 8th, 1998, the first meeting of the Swarm. Like, I know all these weird, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were teaching classes, and I was like, I want to take classes with these people. I am so impressed and enamored by what they do, and so that's when I started doing long form.
Was it a good fit right away, or did it take you a little while to kind of creak into gear and figure out your long form brain?
Well, yes, long form is hard.
Yeah,
it's hard. And what was funny about it was, you know, once I started going to ASCAT, I started going every week. Like every Sunday I was at the show. And I don't remember how we got there, but I had hung out with Walsh a couple times after shows, and he knew and they knew that I was touring with Chicago City Limits and a performer and able to be on stage and whatever. So every, you know, after I started taking classes, every few weeks, they would be short people in the show, and I would see Matt come out from the green room and start looking around in the audience to see who was there, and he would be like, Shawnee, you want to play with us?
What a time to be alive.
I was like, yeah, but I had no idea what I was doing. It was thrilling, but also completely embarrassing. Because I thought I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do this. This is going to be great. And then it would just be like, what is that guy doing right now?
Yeah.
Making a big move was a nightmare, you know? So yes, it took me a while to
Yeah.
But what was great was I was like thrown into the water and had to learn how to swim, you know?
And you didn't feel like having bad shows with them was detrimental to your trajectory because they still needed people.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that goes back to what you were talking about before of like, is it better to have a body of work versus an audition? And I never had an audition for them. I just immediately started having a body of work. And I'm sure it was not as bad to them as it is in my memory because you just don't focus that much on any one person at any given time.
Sure.
You know? But to me, every mistake I made was like a neon sign with a siren. But they got to see that I could consistently do stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
And there is something to be said for just right place, right time. It's
Totally.
like in an era where they are scrapping together whoever is there that can be on stage and
And you know, what's also funny about that is the people who were there, the people who did show up, at times it was people like, you know, Adam McKay and Stephen Colbert and John Glazer and you know, these just comedy icons. But then when those guys weren't there, the audience got me. I thought we were going to see. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, you hear people rustling. You're like, well, last week it was, it was the guy from Strangers with Candy.
Right.
I don't know what happened. Who's this guy entering every scene to do an Arnold Schwarzenegger
Why does he
impression?
keep saying, I sell watches? Like, I literally remember that moment. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love, I have so many of these that live in my, I'm like haunted by memories of bad movies. I Sell Watches was your...
I mean, I don't remember what the context was, but it was like a walk-on where I opened my coat and was like, I sell watches. And it literally was the quietest I've ever heard any place. I was like, here comes my big moment. And it was like in space, no one can hear you scream.
It's
you know?
Babe Ruth pointing to the outfield to call the location of his home run and then striking out. Yeah. Just whiff.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Do you remember anything that made long form or specifically UCB's sort of game style start clicking for you? Or any moment or piece of advice or particular teacher?
Well, it's interesting because, or I don't know if it's interesting.
I'll be the judge of interesting.
Yeah. So I had Matt Walsh for level 1, Amy Poehler for level 2, Matt Besser for level 3.
Mm-hmm.
Never took a class with Ian. Walsh was great because he was like, do whatever you want. It's fine. You know, like he was a classic level 1 teacher, which makes sense if you know Matt, that he's totally validating and accepting. Amy,
Johnny Meeks calls him everyone's favorite camp counselor.
Yes. Amy, I still think of Amy as like one of the best teachers I've ever had in anything because she was both very on point. Like, okay, guys, let's do this. This is not working. You got to do this. You got to do this. But also at the same time was able to be incredibly encouraging and make everybody feel good, which is such a difficult thing to do when you're telling people what they're doing wrong, but still making them feel good about what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a real chick skill.
It's a tough line to walk. And then Besser, I think, which totally makes sense, was the one who's like, this is game. This is what you have to do. Don't ever do anything but this. This is the thing. And I will also say, you know, I think back then, there was not as much of a regimented UCB style as there eventually became.
For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and Britt Faye, who does our marketing. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us, so it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.